evening, everyone, and welcome to another installment of TED Excellence, the show where I occasionally think up an opening, but sometimes I don't. And I come to you live from Crater Valley on the moon with Dog Cat Fox, a Pepperjack, and all of you. Good evening, everyone. Welcome again to Thursday, terrestrial Thursday. Well, not quite terrestrial for me because I'm on the moon. Yes, I'm on the moon. Hope everybody's doing well on this beautiful Thursday evening. A bit of a nostalgic evening. This year, this oncoming summer in particular, with all the protests and all of the craziness and everything, I'm having flashbacks to 2020 and some of the olden days of the channel and everything. And I saw the title of today's presentation. I thought, that's a subject I haven't covered in particular recently. I got some old videos on it, but hey, why not? Also, it pretty much guarantees at least one bingo square will be circled, but we'll get to that momentarily. First, who's joining me on this beautiful Thursday evening? Noah Sencio, hello. Tall Person, hello. Rotten Corpse, hello. Who else is here? Advocast Diaboli, hello. Alan Thyler, hello. And also I hear, or I should say I read, Alan Thyler, you are now in the possession of a bionic knee. I hope the healing process goes by quickly and as painlessly as possible, but congratulations, question mark? I mean, hopefully you'll be better off with a new knee rather than the old knee. And you can be a knight who says knee, I suppose. Best Remy, hello. Kira Soldier, good evening to you. Derek LaRue, thank you, Derek, as always. Appreciate it very much for your continued generosity and support. Hope you're having a good evening and that you enjoy the show. Mike R., hello. Urkelade Stefano, hello. Jam, hello. Attorney Eris, hello. Rib Rascal, hello. Shell D, hello. Chicago Mike, hello. Zero the Hero 909, hello. Vader 35, hello. C. Thomas Peasant, hello. Dixie Rose 63, good evening. Johnny Blaze, hello. Attack Alpaca, hello. Keeverdam, good evening, and thank you so much. Should I shill the leukemia fundraiser instead from now on? Just curious. We can go back and forth. I wanted to have something up there before the show started, and no offense to you at all. But yeah, I mean, I'm gonna weave that in from time to time on its own, just for I think understandable personal reasons. But either way, yeah, it's fine. Just tonight we'll make it a leukemia. We'll make tonight a leukemia night. That doesn't sound good. So thank you, Keeverdam. Appreciate it. Who else is here before I keep going? Robert Pincus, good evening. Also, Alan Thyler again. Thank you, Alan, so much for the Samurai #1 Dogcat Fox. Oh, Dogcat.
Wowie, wow, wow.
Well, there's a ranting monkey, Dogcat Fox. Thank you so much, Alan. Appreciate it. Hope you heal up quickly. Because like I say, that's no fun. My mom had to have her knees messed with a couple of years ago. It's not fun, but eventually things hopefully figure out. Attack Alpaca, did I already say hello? Well, hello again if I did. Mark Smart, good evening. Pissed Off Shih Tzu, good evening. And I think that's everybody I see. If I missed you, if you're lurking, if you're in the future, good evening. So yes, tonight, the possibilities of privilege. The possibilities of privilege. I saw the title and I was like, okay, classic. Haven't talked about privilege, white privilege, thin privilege, light-skinned privilege, not being hit by a bus privilege. That was one of the things I came up with in the olden days. Let's see. What might we hear tonight? Something to the effect of using your privilege to elevate marginalized voices, or to elevate those who cannot speak for themselves. So something within that territory. That's my one definitive psychic prediction. We'll see if that comes to pass. And also get your bingo cards ready. Bingo card A tonight. A as in Ascent to the Throne. That was the selection of which should be the birthright of tonight's bingo card. Birthright being a quasi synonym of privilege. If you'd like to follow along with the bingo card each week, or just to follow along with what I'm up to, follow me on X at scribe_light. But all that being said, let's get into it. This one clocks in at just over 15 minutes, so your good old-fashioned length of a TEDx. I'll start off with a few seconds for a sound test. You guys tell me if you can hear it, and then we will proceed.
You might have more privilege than me.
I might indeed. Although, admittedly, I've never had the privilege of occupying a TEDx stage. You guys hear that okay? Let me know in the chat real quick. While I pre-prepare a link to the Discord server rather than wait to the last minute and the end of the show. See, I'm sort of, I should have done this before I started the broadcast altogether, but I'm a little bit of a Boy Scout, always be a little prepared, right? Oh, sorry, it's not the Boy Scouts. I'm sorry. There's no such thing as the Boy Scouts anymore. It's just Scouting America. SA, as someone pointed out on Twitter the other day. Is great. Anyway, you guys hear that okay? 5x5 says Kiro Soldier. Here, yes, says Simon Willikins. Both hear and he can hear. And Johnny Blaze, what? No way. Oh, about Boy Scouts? Oh, yeah, no, Boy Scouts of America no longer exist. It's now Scouting America because it's all inclusive. Even though Girl Scouts still exist, Boy Scouts cannot. Smashing that patriarchy one institution at a time. Anyway, I might have more privilege than you. It's true, I guess.
And that's okay.
Is it?
In fact, I think that might be a good thing.
Really? Okay, well, he said privilege. Let's go to the bingo card and get ourselves on the board with privilege. Circling that one. And while we're at it, let's go over the bingo card once and remind ourselves what we are listening for as we proceed. Collectivizes own demographic. I think it's possible. Systemic or institutional. Well, so it's probably good. Sales pitch for product or service. Childhood or family anecdote. Diversity, equity, and or inclusion. I think it's possible. Plays victim. When it comes to privilege, somebody has to be on the losing end, right? We'll see. Microaggressions or unconscious bias. Contradicts own point or argument. Patriarchy, weightless example, economic disparity, feminism, marginalized or marginalization. I think that might be a shoo-in, but we'll see. A list, and that has to be a formal list, presumably of some kind. We'll see what he says. White supremacy, word salad, self-vilification or wretchedness, argumentative non sequitur, attempt to coin new buzzword or buzz phrase, mind reading or assumes motives, benevolent condescension, anecdote that probably never happened, and lastly, leaves out vital context. So far on the board, we have privilege and free space. And remember, this is bingo card A. Thank you, C. Thomas. The people who cry about privilege always have more privilege than I ever had, no matter how hard they insist or gaslight. Well, I guess we'll see. I mean, everybody's different. Who knows where our speaker came from or what his circumstances are. I guess we'll find out. We'll see how much of a biography he provides us. But thank you, C. Thomas. And let's continue.
I had the privilege of traveling to India last year.
Wow, you've traveled internationally? Unless you count Canada, and really, who does? I've never traveled internationally, so...
After a business trip.
Oh.
I was traveling by myself, and as soon as I stepped out of the tuk-tuk taxi, I realized very quickly that this American was not ready. Trinity Cho, the famous marketplace in Delhi, India, is like a maze.
Really? And did you get lost?
Roads that could have been more than 8 feet across were crammed full of people moving in every direction.
Wow.
I felt like there was barely any room to move as motorcycles and mopeds sped past to make deliveries.
Well, this almost sounds like a spoken word sort of essay kind of thing. This is a performance, everyone.
Bicycles with moms and children traversed between storefronts,
Ooh.
And men were making food or soliciting business.
Oh my gosh, there's like gesticulations and everything. I wonder if our speaker's a writer, and I'm not being, sarcastic or anything when I say that. It's just like very good vocabulary, very practiced storytelling.
I sipped from a bottle of soda pop as I hungrily watched a cook prepare a meal with his bare hands. He repeatedly wiped his sniffling nose, and I quickly lost my appetite.
Okay.
The smells of the food mixed weirdly with the musky fragrances of this old town.
Ooh, musky.
And I was completely overwhelmed.
Uh-huh.
I just wanted normalcy, like my normalcy.
Right. You're in a completely different country with a completely different culture. It's strange that things are different, huh?
About an hour later, and about a mile from what felt like chaos,
Mhm.
I found myself in an Indian restaurant with waiters and hairnets, limited seating, and filtered water as a plate of buttered chicken was set in front of me.
Isn't every restaurant in India an Indian restaurant? Yeah.
And when I took my first bite,
Mhm.
it was so complicated
Oh, like a Facebook status.
because there was an aftertaste and it wasn't the curry.
Oh,
The aftertaste
yes.
was privilege.
Okay. All right. Do tell. What does privilege taste like? Uh-huh.
You've heard about the boilerplate definition of privilege,
Well, whose boilerplate?
right?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Sorry. I'm a little slow on the draw. Plus, I have to go to different windows for this now.
Right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, I remind me. What is the boilerplate definition of privilege?
As I ate a piece of garlic naan, which is like an Indian flatbread, I thought about it.
Yeah.
Privilege is often thought to be an advantage granted to a single group.
Not necessarily. It can be granted to a single individual, especially like with the example, or at least the abstract example I used in today's bingo poll: ascent to the throne. Right? If you're the son of the king, more likely than not, you'll end up becoming king because of your individual status, not necessarily because of group. Unless you want to extend that to like the royal family or something. But group, demographic, individual, it all depends on what we're talking about.
Or a whole race.
No, that's not, no, no, that's not. Okay. What is the boilerplate definition of privilege? Let's do a quick vocabulary lesson. A special right, advantage, or immunity granted or available only to a particular person or group. A race is not a group. A race could be considered a demographic, but a race is not a group. It is not a monolith. But, okay, so we're already operating on false definitions. Good to know.
I knew I was privileged,
Uh-huh.
sure,
Yeah.
but I couldn't be that privileged.
What, by going into an Indian restaurant and eating, what, local cuisine, you suddenly knew you were privileged? I'm still waiting for how you made that revelation, aside from the fact that you're in a country that has different health standards than America and so on.
Right?
Right?
After all, I'm a black kid from Philadelphia.
Uh-huh.
But with each bite,
Uh-huh.
I began to understand and realize the privileges of my adventure.
Really? Why?
In the marketplace, I drank soda pop, a sweet, fizzy beverage, while I thought others drank unclean water.
In India? Yeah.
Men like me were making the deliveries, and women were taking care of the children.
Uh-huh.
Those light brown skin like me were running the storefronts.
Oh, so now it's, so ethnicity is completely out the window now. Nationality is out the window. It's now just similar skin color, period, huh? Oh, okay.
And all of a sudden, I felt guilty.
Oh, why?
Yet, that night when I took a warm shower in my
Uh-huh.
5-star hotel,
Yeah.
a literal shower thought came to my mind.
A literal shower thought? I don't know what a shower, wait, is that like some kind of special genre of OnlyFans? A shower thought? I mean, that would be a 5-star perk, I suppose.
What if privilege wasn't a bad thing?
It's not a bad thing inherently. It's sort of a neutral thing. It needs more context, I guess, to assign a moral value to it.
If we weren't afraid to use the privileges that we have,
Uh-huh.
what would be possible?
I don't know. How did you use the privileges you possessed in India?
What are the possibilities of privilege?
Ooh, a card. Whoa, animation. Whoa! Dude, animation? In a TEDx? Man, this must be the most privileged TEDx I've ever seen. All right, I don't know. What can you do with it?
Or as I like to call it,
Yeah.
pop.
Oh, attempt to coin new buzzword or buzz phrase, something I like to call, circling that on the card. Attempt to coin new buzzword or buzz phrase. Oh boy. Oh boy. Let's see. Are we doing self-vilification or wretched? Not quite yet. I'll wait and see. Maybe it'll get more obvious in their arguments for later.
My mind bubbled with all the possibilities.
Bubbled, you say, after talking about pop.
Imagine that this bottle right here is filled up with all of your privileges.
All of my privileges. Oh, like I say, like not being hit by a bus privilege. Oh boy, all my privileges. That bottle would explode pretty quick, I think.
What's in here?
I don't know.
Most of us rarely, if ever, think about it.
Oh, I've thought about it plenty over the years, but that's just me.
If you have access to clean, drinkable water, you're in the top 73% of the world.
Oh, thank goodness for that. Great. Yay, America. Yay, EPA. Woo-hoo.
If you live in a democracy, you're on the 45th percentile of the world, and that's being pretty generous with the definition of democracy.
Well, thankfully, I don't actually live in a democracy. More like a representative republic of a kind.
If you make more than $60,000 a year, you're in the top 1% of the world.
Well, I don't. So I guess I'm not privileged.
All of that is in here.
Mm-hmm.
All of us, all of you have privilege.
Oh, okay.
The problem is that we often define privilege incorrectly.
Oh, do we? You mean like a particular right or advantage that belongs to a whole race? I mean, some of us do define it incorrectly. It's true.
Here's how.
Okay.
First.
Yes. Oh, first. Uh-oh, that sounds like a list. I'm going to circle a list. Oh, boy. We're on our way. Let me circle that one here. I'm sure there are others that could be circled. We'll come back around in a minute.
Privilege is both unearned and earned advantage.
Oh, really? Unearned and earned. So it's not simply just a birthright. You can earn a privilege. Huh, okay.
If you have a functional car, you may have the earned advantage of being able to transport people or goods to any drivable destination.
I suppose that's possible if I, paid for the car and or, took the driver's test at the very least to get my driver's license. There was some effort there. It wasn't just granted to me. And obviously, as we know, driving is a privilege, not a right. So, yeah.
If you are in the audience, you have the unearned privilege and advantage of having drinkable water easily accessible to you.
Well, I mean, I happen to be in the audience, by extension. So, but I mean, somebody watching this in a different country might not. But then you're not talking about. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
The possibilities of privilege are both earned and unearned advantage.
All depends on the context, I suppose.
Number two. Societal privilege and institutional privilege is not the same as individual privilege.
Oh, okay. Let's see. We got systemic or institutional on the board, circling that one. Okay.
You might think with white privilege that every white person experiences the privileges in the same way.
Yeah, it is. It would be kind of bizarre to actually believe that because, white privilege seems to imply that there is some kind of standard automatic benefit that can be identified person to person simply on the basis of them being white. So you might think that.
I disagree.
Oh, okay.
No two people are likely to experience the same privileges at the same time, in the same place, in the same way.
Okay, so white privilege is then a myth because you can't just, wash with the same brush across an entire racial demographic and say that there is some common shared advantage. Correct?
Privilege intersects with us each differently.
Oh, okay.
The possibilities of privilege are about individual privilege.
Oh, okay. Individual privilege. I came up with something in an old video called privilege. The privilege of having privilege. Like again, not being hit by I currently have not being hit by a bus privilege, right? I currently have not having asteroid fall on my foot privilege. I mean, it's not happening, And so obviously in the absence of something bad happening to me, I have the privilege of that bad thing not happening to me. Right? I think that's how it works. Ooh. Somebody's really motorcycling their way through the city right now. I don't know if you can hear that. Somebody really revved their engine just a second ago. Anyway, Chicago Mike, thank you so much. Appreciate it. What if I lived in the Democratic People's Republic of Korea? Do I really live in a democracy? Obviously you do, because it's true what it says on the label. According to Great Leader, Chicago Mike, and do not question Great Leader. If the thing says it is a thing that it says, then it is the thing that it says. The thing. Thank you, Chicago Mike. Also, thank you, Adabisi. It's been a while, Adabisi. I want him to say so badly, quote, "You are privileged to listen to me talk to you," unquote. I came here late, so I'm assuming someone already thought of this. Well, I said something to the effect of, you talked about everybody has privilege. And I said, well, I haven't had the privilege of being on a TEDx stage. But he's also said something like, everybody in the audience has the privilege of having access to clean drinking water. I'm assuming everybody in the audience got a bottle of water for showing up to their TEDx talk or something. I don't know, but coming close. Not quite, but coming close. Thank you, Adabisi. Let's see. Nothing to see here. I don't have not being hit by a bus privilege. Well, you see, I'm more privileged than you are. What can I tell you? I hope you got a good settlement out of that one, because that sounds terrible. I mean, I'm joking, but I don't joke about being hit by a bus, except when I do. Anyway, you have my condolences. I bet you left the bus in worse shape than you were. Right? I don't know.
And number three.
Number three.
Individual privilege is not absolute.
Oh, okay. So if individual privilege is not absolute, everybody experiences privilege differently, person to person, time to time, then you're going to dispel the notion of there being racial privilege, even though you defined privilege as belonging potentially to an entire racial group, right? Or an entire race. So I feel like I'm being led towards nodding and agreeing with him to be brought back around to something that I obviously probably wouldn't. I guess we'll find out.
Privilege is a probability.
Uh-huh.
If you identify as male, you likely make more money than those that don't identify as male.
Nobody identifies as male. They either are male or they're not male. Okay, so far we've had the definition of privilege being incorrect, and now we have gender being framed as incorrect. Okay.
But that might only be true for a few of you, and it might only be true 40% of the time.
40% of the time, it works 100% of the time. So there is no definitive, there is no rule. It can be different for everyone depending on where they're at or what their circumstances are. Yes, I agree. Some people may have privileges that others do not. Some people may enjoy privileges that others simply do not or cannot, depending on where they were born or their socioeconomic status or anything else. So if this entire talk is to dispel the notion of inherent privilege, save for those special circumstances where, like I say, son of the king and things like that, then I don't know that I disagree, but I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop.
For those that like to play video games,
yes,
imagine for a moment that you select a character with a higher probability of finding loot in treasure chests.
Ooh, yeah, so that'd be probably a rogue.
Your character doesn't find extra loot 100% of the time. They just have a higher probability of it.
Yes, by design. Uh-huh.
The possibilities of privilege are a probability.
Oh, okay. And how do you estimate this probability person to person?
So what's our new definition for the possibilities of privilege?
I don't know.
Privilege is the probability of earned and unearned advantage granted to an individual.
Granted? Wait, if I earn it, it's not granted. I've earned it. I mean, maybe I'm just being too literal here.
This bottle is filled up with all of your privileges and their intersectionality.
Intersectionality? Oh my gosh, we're getting all the buzzwords here. I am feeling like this is nostalgic. Okay, tell me about intersectionality. You know what intersectionality is, don't you? Right? It's the overlapping oppressions that affect black women. No, seriously, that was the original definition of intersectionality as defined and promoted by Kimberly Crenshaw back in the olden days. Of course, that term has been co-opted over and over again by different groups and entities to be turned into, well, just about anything they want it to be. But I don't think intersectionality applies to me. I mean, if we're going by the classic definition, I mean, if you've changed definitions, I honestly would not be surprised.
Your abilities, your opportunities, your access, your race, your culture, your income, your nationality, your upbringing, and so much more.
Oh, okay. How does my race contribute to this inherently? Given what you already said, kind of contradicts that whole thing. We'll get to that momentarily. Thank you, Chicago Mike. Word salad. Just on the cusp. Just on the cusp. Maybe it's just my tolerance level after all these years of listening to this kind of rhetoric, but we're almost there. We're almost there. Just give it a moment here. Give it a moment. I think part of my problem with circling some of the squares now is literally the fact that I have such a high tolerance for nonsense, or I've heard it so many times it starts to make a sort of familiar sense, if not logical sense. Does that make sense?
So what are the possibilities of privilege?
I don't know. The title of your presentation is that. You've said that phrase at least once or twice before now. Let's get to it. You got 10 minutes left.
As I explored this question in India, I felt like I unlocked something. There was an energy, there was an urgency, there was a pressure, there was excitement. It kind of felt like if you took a bottle of soda pop and you shook it up.
Oh my gosh. Animation again. Okay. Can you get to something specific rather than these abstract examples?
So let's see what happens if we shake the possibilities of privilege.
I can't wait. What happened in India? What did you do with this revelation? How did you leverage your privilege in India to do stuff?
Let's see what happens when we shake the pop.
Okay.
But you're not supposed to shake the pop, Jason. Aren't you afraid?
What?
Yeah, maybe a little bit.
Okay. Mind reading assumes motives. Like, what was that? You came up with the analogy of pop. Are you just talking? Oh, wait. Are you just talking about like pop in reality or? Okay, I'm going to take back mind reading assumes motives. I'm just going to circle word salad because if not for that, then for the aggregate previous. So there you go. Okay, we'll wait on mind reading assumes motives because maybe I just got confuzzled.
But by being afraid of privilege, we amplify the harmful effects of it.
I'm afraid of privilege?
Look, I understand why we don't want to talk about privilege.
You do? Oh, okay, well now it's mind reading assumes motives because I don't understand why we don't want to talk about privilege, but you already know? Okay, well, circling that one then.
Privilege creates guilt when we have.
Does it? If I earned it, does it create guilt? Does earned privilege create guilt?
Talk about privilege. Privilege creates guilt when we have extravagance, while others don't have basic needs.
It depends on what we're talking about, I suppose. I mean, there's a level of consistency and tolerance in everybody for their current circumstances or just the circumstances available to them. But okay, you know. Thank you, Oszan, for the good job, Dogcat Fox. Oh, Dogcat Fox.
Wowie, wow.
Ooh, there's a P-Dog Night, Dogcat Fox. Thank you, Oszan. Appreciate it. And thank you, Matt Barnes, so much. Let me click on the likes there. I know a man who advised farmers in Ukraine after the USSR fell. He said they brushed their teeth with soda due to pollution. Sorry for the late response, was occupied. Yeah, that's desperation. That is a country not taking care of its people, at least at that time, especially after the USSR fell. I can imagine. That's desperation right there. Thank goodness we don't live in a country that chaotic. At least at present, you never know. Thank you, Matt Barnes. And thank you again, Keeverdam. Word salad with a side of acronym soda pop. Yeah, it is. He really likes his soda pop. He really, really does. I don't know if that's the best analogy, but it's his. POP, possibilities of privilege. Okay, let me back up a second here. Let's get the fullness of what we're talking about.
Look, I understand why we don't want to talk about privilege.
Uh-huh.
Privilege creates guilt when we have extravagance, while others don't have basic needs.
It could.
Privilege encourages defensiveness and entitlement when we feel like we've earned what others don't have.
Yes. Or, I mean, by extension, that we are the recipients of honest labor of others. Like the advantage, I've talked about this before, the advantages that my sister and I had growing up did not just appear out of the ether, right? It was compounded over generations between my ancestors working hard and scraping to get by to give a better life to their children who had to work hard, not as much to scrape by, but they still worked hard and had to. And then it became the responsibility of my sister and I to take the advantages that our parents and grandparents had worked to earn for their children and then do the best that we could with them. But even then, it was up to my sister and I to make individual choices for ourselves that were healthy, taking advantage of the advantages that had been earned on our behalf. We could still screw it all up. We could toss them away, right? We could take all the advantages we were given and just say, hell with it, or I'm going to go this direction, or I'm going to make this bad choice or something and waste this opportunity or not take advantage of it or whatever else. We were handed opportunity. We were not handed a full solution, at least in my case. You know, some families have it differently. Some people are born with a trust fund. But even then, that doesn't guarantee you're going to have a great life. You could screw it up. You could become a very, very terrible person with a trust fund. Anyway, what were you saying?
Privilege invokes anger when we see it used to harm or limit opportunities for oneself or for others.
It depends. Again, you want to give me an example? I mean, I can imagine quite a bit, but could you give me an example?
These feelings only scratch the surface of our emotions and the historical impacts of privilege.
Historical impact. Oh boy. All right. You're telling me more. What do I feel and think?
So yes, privilege can be a bad thing if left unchecked.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, privilege can also just be something that somebody's earned through their own honest labor, can't it? And you have no right or entitlement to it as an outside party. Okay.
But if used effectively, it can be world-changing for individuals and for groups.
Oh, I sense reparations coming.
So let's see what happens when we shake the possibilities of privilege.
I'm still waiting. Yes. Okay. Get on with it.
Let's see if we can get past our fear and shake the pop.
Okay. And?
When I was a kid.
Oh, okay. Childhood or family anecdote. Circling that one. All I needed was when I was a kid.
My mom and my dad often had to tell me to stop roughhousing with my sister. If you don't know what roughhousing is, it's when you play with your sister and body slam her into the couch for fun. One time, my parents stepped out just for a second. And as soon as they did, I started wrestling with my sister. A few moments later, there was a hole in the drywall right next to the kitchen.
Wait a second. What's this? What's this in the chat? Mark Smart says, WTF, I predicted the future. I'm sorry I stole your power. What did you say? What was this? What was your prediction? You're gonna have to repost it for me because I missed it. I'm scrolling up, but I don't know how far back you made your prediction. So, Mark Smart, what was your psychic moment? Did you have a psychic moment earlier? Okay. Well, let me know in the chat what it was. All right. So our speaker liked to physically abuse his younger sister as a child. All right.
Oddly enough, it was in the exact same shape as my sister's head.
You put your sister's head through the wall. Is that what I heard?
As soon as they did, I started wrestling with my sister. A few moments later, there was a hole in the drywall right next to the kitchen.
Your little sister. Yeah, that's roughhousing. Mark Smart says, I mentioned that we would hear some kind of check your privilege. Oh, did you? Oh, okay. I don't know why I didn't say that. You had a psychic moment, huh? Well, I guess I at least briefly can extend it, and if I don't have one of my own. I'll accept psychic moments from the audience as well, even though I can't put your face on there. But okay, so you put your sister's head through the drywall, which that can be very bad for a small child and their skull.
Oddly enough, it was in the exact same shape as my sister's head. She was fine because what's worse than getting a bump on the head is getting into trouble. My mom and my dad came in the house saying, "This is why you shouldn't roughhouse with your sister. You don't know your own strength."
That's so it's not that you shouldn't physically assault your sister, it's that you don't know your own strength. And putting her head through drywall. She was fine except for that bump on her head, which might have been a concussion or something. Oh, okay, all right. This is a bizarre. You know what? I believe this anecdote happened because it's so self, convicting. I don't know that anybody would say this kind of story and have it not be true.
Still to this day, when I play with my friends, I have to be very aware of this strength ability.
Oh, okay, dude. You being stronger than your little child sister at the time, I could see that. But now you play with your friends, you have to be wary of your strength ability. Okay. If you say so.
Privilege operates in the same way.
So okay, let's just stipulate for a moment. Your physical strength, your inherent strength ability is a privilege, right? It's an unearned advantage, right? You didn't do anything to achieve it. You just naturally are that way. Okay. And it's a demonstrable privilege. It's not like something ethereal. It's not something circumstantial or abstract. You just are strong. You didn't do anything to earn it. It just is there as a factor of your nature, let's say. Okay.
Left unlearned, unchecked, and undeveloped, privilege can be used to hurt people, especially as an adult.
Oh, okay. Especially as an adult, except for the part where you put your sister's head through a wall when you were a child. But okay,
But if mastered and understood, it can be used for good.
Okay. How have you used your inherent strength for good?
You have to know your privilege to control your privilege.
Okay.
Imagine for a moment that we considered some of your individual privileges as innate strengths or characteristics.
Innate strengths or characteristics. So unearned. We're in the unearned category, right?
This might align with qualities such as initiative taking or
well, I suppose that could be part and parcel with someone's character, but I don't know. Well, some people have it more innately than others, I guess.
Initiative taking or organizational skills.
Sure, some people are more naturally inclined towards those things than others. It's not inherently a privilege. Depends on how it is leveraged. It could be a push, as they say in blackjack. So
similarly, this might resonate with traits like outward energy or heightened perception.
It could.
But just like me as a kid, and even more so as an adult, great care must be made with these newly found strengths so that others don't get hurt.
Okay, how is my initiative taking going to hurt someone? How are my enhanced senses going to hurt someone?
There's 3 ways to shake the possibilities of privilege responsibly.
Are you going to get to some... Okay, all right, give me the list.
There's 3 ways to shake the pot safely. 1,
Mm-hmm.
Know your privileges.
Know my privileges. But I mean, if they're just part of my everyday, etc., and I have nothing actively to compare it to, how would I know?
2, use your privileges to help yourself.
Okay.
And then 3,
Use your privileges to help others?
use your privileges to help others.
Oh, I did it! All right, so I'm still waiting. What did you do in India after your revelation of having privilege in a foreign country with different standards and a different culture, and you suddenly realized that your life back in America was much different than here in this other country with this wholly different structure and government and everything? What did you do? What have you done? So far, we've seen you put your sister's head through a wall and sit in other people's restaurants and complain about the quality of the food. But okay, be the role model I need you to be here. How are you using your privilege for the betterment of others?
Let's create an example.
I would appreciate if you just give us an active example, but okay, in the absence of that, I'll take a hypothetical.
Let's say we have Gary.
Gary. Did Gary escape from Vault 18 by any chance? It was Vault 18, wasn't it?
Gary identifies as male.
Is Gary male? So Gary is a female, because otherwise he wouldn't have to identify as that. He would just be that, right? So Vault 108. Oh, okay. I knew there was a 1 and an 8 in there. My bad. Vault 108. I failed my Fallout lore score just then. I apologize.
He has the privilege of being taken more seriously in meetings than those that might not identify as male.
Okay, every time you say identify as male, you're just losing the credibility fight right there, right off a cliff.
But remember, privilege is a probability.
No, you just said that he gets more attention in meetings because he identifies as male. There's no probability. It is a 100% thing, right?
It's not a guarantee.
But if it's not a guarantee, then why would you call it privilege?
First, Gary should learn about his probable privileges. Like
his probable privileges. Okay, I could learn about the probable privileges I might or might not have on a given day in a given circumstance all day, and I'd be sitting in a room babbling at myself until I died, because anything could happen to anybody at any time. How much time in each day do I need to dedicate to examining my probable privilege? Again, not being hit by bus privilege, not being hit in the foot by an asteroid privilege, and so on.
Like being taken more seriously in meetings, and seek to understand its impact on himself and the world around him.
Okay, so Gary needs to be constantly paranoid that any element of his makeup, personality, background, or whatever may impart upon him an advantage, perhaps only a circumstantial and in a particular moment advantage that he has over others. And he needs to keep this in mind all day, every day, in every situation. That is what Gary must do to be a healthy individual. Is that it? C. Thomas, thank you so much. Gary. Yeah. I wish I'd said 108. I feel bad now. It's been a long time since I played Fallout 3. Or no, sorry, Fallout New Vegas. Was it Fallout New Vegas? Dang it. The Garys were in... Which was it? Fallout 3 or Fallout New Vegas? It was Fallout New Vegas, wasn't it? Dang it. I'm terrible. I'm terrible. They all mushed together after a while. Anyway.
Pretty easy, right?
No, that's not easy. That's like trying to discern the multiverse.
Second, to help himself, Gary should find responsible ways of using his strength/privilege to aid in his self-improvement.
Okay, such as? I mean, so far you've just said that he identifies as male, and that's an inherent advantage. So how should Gary go about this?
Maybe the knowledge of the strength allows Gary to speak up when a little nervous or moderate a conversation more effectively.
Maybe. Does Gary have that much assertiveness in him as an individual rather than just as a person who identifies as male? Derek LaRue, Gary. Uh-oh. We got a whole thing going on here. Gary. Thank you, Derek. And thank you, Chicago Mike. We should start taking bets when Scribe hits the WTF, but it's coming close. I tell you what, it keeps oscillating. It like goes just up a little bit, and then okay, I'm waiting for the next shoe to drop, and then it goes back up. And anyway, so we'll wait and see. Okay, sorry. What were you saying about Gary again?
Self-improvement.
Right.
Maybe the knowledge of the strength allows Gary to speak up when a little nervous or moderate a conversation more effectively.
Maybe it does. Maybe it doesn't. Tell me again the definition of privilege.
And 3, to help others, Gary should find impactful ways of using his strength/privilege to improve his community or his workplace.
How? In this hypothetical example, how should Gary use the fact that he identifies as male towards the betterment of others?
Maybe Gary helps elevate the voice of a colleague or creates a more welcoming environment for others.
Oh, I mean elevating the voices of the marginalized or those who can't speak for themselves? Like I said before the show even started, oh my God. So Gary has the inherent power to elevate the voices of others. What others? So far, all we know about Gary is that he is a man. Oh, sorry, identifies as a man. You're still talking in abstracts. You're still talking in what ifs and maybes. You're still talking about privilege as though it's something that just might happen to certain individuals, maybe, which goes against the whole idea of a privilege, sort of a birthright. You just have it because of the circumstances you possess. But of course, you already changed the definition of privilege at the top of the show. I don't know what I'm talking about anymore. I don't know if our speaker does either.
These things may seem like they're small, but imagine if everybody could process the privileges in this way.
They would never leave their house.
The aggregate effect would create a more empathetic and effective society.
Would it? Would it really? Okay. So, how have you performed these same acts using your privilege? Give us examples of what you have done, right? Be the change you want to see. How are you the Gary that we need to pay attention to?
By just doing these 3 simple steps, Gary can shake the possibilities of privilege.
Are they simple? Because they seem awfully amorphous.
Just by doing these 3 simple things, you too could shake the pot. Now that you know the basics of shaking the pop,
I get basics. Yeah, sure.
what does this look like in the real world?
Oh my God! Is it finally going to happen? 2/4 of the way, 2/3, 2/3 of the way through the talk. Are we finally going to get active examples? Tell me, oh, tell me true.
Imagine that you walk into a business meeting and
I don't want to imagine. Tell me something that you have done. You went to India, you interacted with a different culture, with different ways of doing things and different cuisines and on and on and on. What do you do? Be the example. If you've had these revelations, I assume you are practicing these things in real life. Otherwise, you're a hypocrite. But okay, I guess we're still in hypotheticals.
imagine that you walk into a business meeting and you notice that most of the attendees are from the same background.
So the same background? What do you mean by background?
What could you do?
What could I do about most of the people in the room being from the same background? Nothing.
Thanks for being here on time, everyone. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day. Just taking a quick look around the room, it looks like we might have some strong male and national privileges here today.
Tell me that's not the way you're going to approach this, whatever it is, or I'm hitting the WTF button.
So if we can, let's really try to listen to each other. Let's take turns speaking. And of course, no interruption. No interruptions for anybody. Does that sound good? Awesome. All right, Sebastian, how are those projections looking? Or at a different company.
What? What is that? What the fuck is that?
Looking around the room. So, on sight alone, our speaker, knows something about the people in the room. He knows they have the same background. Not because he's talked to every individual or something, but just because he's made an assessment of their life and lifestyle or quality of their life or something about their background simply on the basis of what he can see. Gosh, there's a word for that, isn't there? I don't want to mix up my definitions, but I think there might be several words for that. Thank you, Matt Barnes. National privilege. Oh, no. Yeah, I like the national privilege. National privilege? I mean, if you're talking about I am a citizen of the United States, therefore I have some inherent national privileges. Otherwise, I don't know what he means. Let's just listen to that again. Let's just go back a little bit and listen to that again.
This look like in the real world?
Yeah.
Imagine that you walk into a business meeting and you notice that most of the attendees are from the same background.
Okay, and again, by notice, it's just surface level elements. Okay.
What could you do?
Yeah.
Thanks for being here on time, everyone. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day. Just taking a quick look around the room, it looks like we might have some strong male and national privileges here today. So if we can, let's really try to listen to each other. Let's take turns speaking. And of course, no interruption. No interruptions for anybody. Does that sound good? Awesome.
Because obviously males and those with national privilege have to be talked down to like their children, I guess. Unless this is all a setup for a joke, I guess.
All right, Sebastian, how are those projections looking?
Sebastian.
Or at a different company, what if management and leadership crowdsource religious practices?
Crowdsourced religious practice? What? Wait, did I hear that right? Sorry, what?
What if management and leadership crowdsource religious practices?
Did I hear that right? Crowdsource religious practices?
And then adjust meeting times during Ramadan for fasting Muslim employees.
So that's awfully specific.
By just being aware of privilege, or lack thereof, you can offset the harmful effects of privilege and create a healthy, helping culture.
So a company needs to extend a special privilege to people in the company on the basis of their religious beliefs. I mean, I don't really have a problem with that necessarily, because there's lots of companies that make accommodation for people to have time out of their day to pray or otherwise. There's nothing wrong against that. It's one of the balancing acts of discrimination. You can't discriminate against employees for wanting to practice their religion because we have freedom of religion and expression in this country, right? But you can't elevate or make special or give, undue advantage or opportunity to people on the basis of their religion. So that one's kind of a push to me. But who's got the privilege in that dynamic again?
But in order to do that, you have to shake the possibilities of privilege. To transform your communities and your workplace, you have to shake the pot.
Your analogy is not as effective as you think it is. It really is not.
For those that are ready to shake things up right now, here's how you can shake the pot. How do you know your privileges? Consider how everyday comforts are privileges that others lack, and talk with your friends and learn about those disparities.
Disparities, you say. And what do we know about disparities? They do not necessarily indicate an inequity. Thank you, Matt Barnes. Oh, he beat me to it. I was going to suggest hitting people up for money to fund the halal taking care of a goat. YouTube me. Oh, Jesus. Well, I appreciate you passing on YouTube's edit before I reflexively read it like Ron Burgundy, but thank you so much, Matt Barnes. I don't even know what I'm listening to anymore. Okay, what was that again? Sorry, you have to talk to your friends and commiserate on how privileged you are versus how unprivileged they are, or start exchanging notes on who's got more privilege than the other, so you can all have one big struggle session.
Privileges. Consider how everyday comforts are privileges that others lack, and talk with your friends and learn about those disparities.
Oh, this goes right into my TED Talk. Did I ever show you? I've showed you my TED Talk before, right? Where I said, yeah, everybody, you need to throw Legos on the floor of your house and never wear shoes or socks so that you can know through this sort of environmental inconvenience and pain what it's like to try to navigate the world with caution and constant danger, just like other people experience a little bit. You can simulate it. This is sounding more and more like my fake talk.
How can you use your privileges to help yourself?
I don't know.
Once aware of a privilege,
Yes.
consider it a strength.
Okay.
And then find responsible ways to use it to improve yourself.
Oh, okay. So I have not getting hit by a bus privilege. I suppose I can leverage that to continue not being hit by a bus.
And most importantly,
Uh-huh.
how can you use your privilege to help others?
I don't know.
Enlarge a single parent's world by sharing your professional network.
What?
Fuel a young musician's talent through creative mentorship or resource access. Amplify a colleague's voice when it's overshadowed. Ease a friend's journey with a shared ride. And nurture fair discourse through every single interaction.
I could do those things if I had the ability or the resources, I suppose. Of course, most of that sounds like doing something nice for somebody in my life that I want to help out just as a matter of course. But is that inherently a privilege?
This talk is not meant to explain how to overcome our fear.
Then what is it for?
It's not meant to reveal all of one's privileges or prevent the misuse of these privileges.
I'm getting that after 13 minutes of this.
This talk is meant to reshape an aspect of our lives that traditionally has been demonized and reframe it to be empowering, supportive, and world-changing.
And who has demonized this concept in particular over the last 7 or 8 years? And who has been demonized mostly with this powerful, powerful word?
Your privileges can be strengths.
Uh-huh.
They can be the one final thing that tie all of our other strengths together.
Uh-huh.
Using them for yourself is a step, but you become even stronger when you use them to help others.
So how did you do this?
Your privileges can be strengths.
You just said that. Repetition does not make reality.
And the real potential, the ones that excite me the most, are the ones that are realized after we normalize the concept of privilege itself. Being in India made me
Yes.
see my privileges for what they are.
Okay. All right. You've got a minute and a half. Show us how you practice what you preach.
Strengths. And shaking up those possibilities of privilege allowed me to see India for what it truly is.
Okay. You got to see India for what it truly is. Is that on the same level as seeing people's backgrounds just by walking in the room?
A country of beauty, of vibrancy,
Uh-huh.
rich in culture,
Uh-huh.
and community.
You could say that about just about any country. What did you do
For so long, we've taken our privileges
What do you mean?
and stuck them into this bottle.
What do you mean we? What? God dang it.
And we've taken this bottle and put this on the back shelf of our life. Fear, entitlement, anger, and guilt have kept it back there.
Oh, have they?
But what if we take out this bottle together,
And shake it up?
shake it together,
Oh, shake it up. Shake it up. Shake it up. Shake it up.
and open it?
Yeah.
Some of you might only open it a little bit, and that's okay.
Just, okay.
But for the rest of you,
Uh-huh.
I hope that every time you learn about a privilege,
Uh-huh.
you shake the pop.
Okay.
Every time that you use your privilege to help someone else,
Which you apparently do not.
you shake the pop.
Uh-huh.
And especially when you use it to help others, you shake the pop with all of your strength
Uh-huh.
and then open it to allow your privileges to explode into the world to continue to improve the lives of yourselves and others. So let's see what happens when we shake the possibilities of privilege.
Could you tell us what you've done?
Let's see what happens when we together shake the pop. Thank you.
Failed presentation. Failed presentation. What? Okay, let's go to the bingo card. I'm gonna go to the bingo card. I'm gonna go over it one more time by myself, and then I will open up the floor to suggestions or arguments otherwise for squares to be circled. Let me get this updated there. That is what the card looks like right now. Oh, sorry, 1 second here. Thank you, Chicago Mike. Shake It Up is my favorite song from the Cars. I know, right? What about Shake It Off? Do we don't do Shake It Off around here? Probably not. It's too modern. But the Cars, sure. All right, here we go. Collectivize his own demographic. Yes, because he was talking about the brown skin he shared with Indian people. Thus, he was an extension of a completely different ethnicity, culture, etc. somehow, just on the basis. And as we at least had implied to us, he's very big on grouping people together on shades of skin. Sales pitch for product or service. Well, soda pop. I mean, if only by just repetition. Boy, oh boy, soda pop, the actual thing of soda pop. Yeah, diversity, equity, or inclusion. See, he talked about the workplace, and there was a lot of DEI sentiment in there, and a lot of rhetoric that belongs or has become part and parcel with DEI. So in the aggregate, if not in the specificity, but I'm going to take it. And there.
Ooh, that's a bingo.
Right?
Yeah!
All right. Plays victim. Now this is a tough one because he was recognizing his privilege in India. I can only go off of those instances where he's talking about himself. Of course, he threw his sister's head through a wall. Maybe. I don't know. I'm sure there's an argument for it. Microaggressions or unconscious bias. Certainly. National privilege in here. What was he saying? A lot of male privilege in here and nationalist privilege. Yeah, I think that probably counts. His performance of unconscious bias or microaggressions contradicts own point or argument. Yeah, if for no other reason than his terrible definition of privilege at the top of the thing, and then holding people to account for it during the rest of it. Patriarchy, oh yeah, because as male identified persons, this, that, and the other obviously have this kind of advantage, and so on and so forth. So circle in that one as well. Weightless example. India. His trip to India. he never made that a relevant part of his argument or made it an example that he could demonstrate his own theory in practice at all. He just went to a different country and realized, boy, oh boy, things are better back home. And economic disparity. Yes, talking about India and health standards and people's work and everything else. Yeah, that one too. Feminism. No, well, he did bring up intersectionality. He did bring up intersectionality, and that is inherently part of the, at least, standard feminist sort of thinking. Marginalization. Yes, because, you have to lift up those voices that cannot be and so on. And so, at least by extension, certainly. And
Bingo.
What? Bingo! Yeah!
Of course, of course.
all right, moving on. White supremacy. I think we did. I think there was a little bit of an implication there, don't you think? Especially when we talk about white privilege and then talking about, oh, I can see by the cut of your jib you have nationalist privilege and same backgrounds and so on and so forth. And so,
Bingo. What?
Of course.
oh, and that's also
I had a dog, and his name was...
What?
I had a dog, and his name was...
Of course.
all right, self-vilification or wretchedness. I don't know. Did we get any sense from him that he was the bad guy for putting his sister's head through a wall? He kind of dismissed that, didn't he? Well, no, actually, you know what? By telling that story and then coming back and saying he learned his lesson, he didn't know his own strength, so he has to use it and be aware of its capacity so that you don't hurt people. And he did hurt his sister, even though he waved off the fact that he put her head through a wall. So in a way, yes, he did vilify himself and his previous actions, let's say. So let's see. Argumentative non sequitur. Oh boy. Oh boy. Man, oh man. There was so much stuff and fluff in there. I'm not sure. I'm going to leave that one. Benevolent condescension. Yes, in telling everybody that they need to, effectively, like if you have an advantage, you have to help somebody else out, like you wouldn't or something. Or like, he has to tell everybody in the room not to interrupt each other because obviously that's what men do. I was sure, there was part of me that was sure that whole meeting role play thing was meant to be a joke, but I guess he really meant it. And if that's how he really wants people to talk to each other, that's condescending.
Oh, won't somebody please?
Bingo. BINGO.
Okay!
Right?
Anecdote that probably never happened. Okay, I can believe that he went to India on a business trip. I can believe that he stayed at a 5-star hotel. I can believe that he watched a cook make some unsanitary decisions in the course of preparing his food. I can believe, because it's so detrimental to his image, that he put his sister's head through a wall. Every anecdote that he came up with that was actually an anecdote and not some hypothetical scenario, I don't have any reason to think they were too good to be true or then everybody clapped. So I'm not sure I can circle that one. And lastly, leaves out vital context. Yeah, as I complained about during the entire thing, at what point did you practice what you preach? If you've learned these lessons, if you've come to these revelations, what did you do in India? Or what have you done since then to help other people? How have you used your privilege to help other people? You said you had superhuman strength, so when were you going to tell us about that? He didn't, and so he didn't. And so...
Ooh, that's a bingo!
Right?
Yeah!
All right. Here's the thing, guys. I need excellent arguments. There are 3 squares left. these arguments have got to be gold-plated, certified good. I cannot take any joke arguments. Each square is at least a double bingo. And if we have 3 good arguments, we're up to a blackout. So, and I'm being absolutely serious here. Can't waver. You have to give me really, really good arguments on each one. Okay, so I'm going to entertain arguments now. If you've already put one into the chat, just repost it, please. And be sure to tag me in it so I can see it more clearly. Okay, let's go through some comments. Keeverdam, how do I have privilege since I grew up as a black kid in Philly equals plays victim? That's also true. That's also true. So that is true. Well, no, wait, that might be more self-deprecation vilification. I don't know. That's plays victim. Is that? You think that play? You'll forgive me if I have to consider these. Okay, that's. Let's see. Advocatus. I'm going to go over some of these. The meeting example non sequitur. He described a meeting where all the people were equally privileged and telling them how to deal with those with no privilege who weren't even there. I already circled. Oh, okay. I see. Okay. Oh, I'm not rejecting these. I'm just thinking about them. And I'm seeing if anybody has any overlapping arguments. Advocates again. His trip to India had weight. It opened his eyes to privilege being multifaceted, as he said. But did he ever give us an example of how it connected with something that he saw in India? Right? I mean, he would have to have given us, like, I was here and I saw this thing, and then this is what I'm talking about. There had, if he was going to bring up the whole India experience, he had to bring up some specific examples that tied what he saw in India to something that related back to him, and then what he did about it. So, as an example of the real world and noticing his privilege, he went to India and he noticed his privilege, and then he did what with this knowledge? Nothing. So the India example, as something that was supposed to be an inspiration for his audience, never came to fruition. Because that was the only one, aside from his strength of throwing his sister's head through a wall, where he actually named a privilege that he possessed. And of course, even then, he didn't tell us how he used his strength to help other people. So I'm pushing back against your pushback. He was just stating being in a foreign land opened his eyes to the fact he had privilege and made him realize it was multidimensional. Yeah, but in order for that example to make any sense in the presentation, he has to connect it to the lessons he says he's learned from it, and then give examples of how that then led to him practicing what he preached in the real world, and he never did that. So I'm pushing back. I'm pushing back. Let's see. None of this made any sense. Well, there were pieces of it that made sense, so maybe. Yeah. Let's see. Okay, so going back to Keeverdam's thing. How do I have privilege since I grew up as a black kid in Philly plays victim? Like I say, I'm not dismissing it. I just want to make sure that it's solid, because again, it is a double bingo, and we're leaning towards a blackout. I just want to make sure. Let's see. Matt Barnes looked at his kingdom. He was finally there. What do you know? Gary still has a career. Is that a song lyric? I don't know. But thank you, Matt Barnes. Okay. Yeah, no, okay. For plays victim, as in where I grew up and how I am, why do I have privilege? How could I have privilege? Okay, I'll grant you that one. Okay, and I'm going to be very considerate about these before I circle them, and it can't be
Bingo.
What? Bingo! Yeah!
Of course!
Bingo. What?
Of course!
All right. Any other arguments for squares to be circled? And sorry, there was an argumentative non sequitur. I think we're going to be out of luck for the anecdote that probably never happened. Scribble, what about the Gary thing as part of an argument? You know, that's true because he never followed up with that on anything. And he also never gave me specific examples. He just said, oh, what if Gary could use, because it was like, what was the privilege that Gary had? As far as I can recall, unless somebody can correct me, and I'm happy to be corrected, the only thing he ever described for Gary as a privilege was the fact that he, quote unquote, identified as male, right? But then what else about Gary was supposed to be used? Gary wasn't carried forward as an example. We didn't, hear about the evolution of Gary in some way, just a whole bunch of abstracts. Am I wrong? Was Gary ever attributed with anything other than identifies as male? Now that whole portion. Alan Thayer, thank you, Scribe and Chat. I needed this. You are all the best. You needed a lecture on privilege? Alan, I don't know what to tell you, man. That's a vitamin deficiency I didn't know existed. Let's see. That meeting in no way conformed to the rest of his talk. Which meeting? The Gary meeting? What meeting? I'm confused now. Let's see. Jacoby Irish. Jacoby or Jacoby? Which is it? Because I think of like Derek Jacob. I forget. I've heard his last name pronounced in different ways. Derek Jacoby or Jacoby. Did he actually have curry in India? LOL. I think he did. He had naan bread. He said he had naan bread. Let's see. Mark Smart. Gary wasn't even given a race unless I missed something. Yeah, as far as I know, Gary was just called a male identified. Pay RD Bayer. I think his whole concept was a non sequitur. He said, if you notice your privileges, you can make things better, but how? Well, yeah, that's like I was saying. Well, he said, oh, you can uplift a voice of somebody else or use your network to help an artist get a shot or something. And I guess you could. Let's see. Pissed off. She said, we're not going to have a blackout because all the anecdotes seem plausible. Yeah, that's the thing. I don't think we're going to have a blackout. Argument of non sequitur. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in here. Like the India thing never had a payoff. The Gary thing never had a payoff. His inherent strength. I mean, of all the examples that he gave, the only one where he talked about himself was his inherent strength. And he talked about how not knowing his own strength, not knowing the extent of his own privilege, led to his sister being hurt. But then he didn't follow that up with, so then I learned to use my strength for good, like something. But he didn't. Alan Thyler, thank you again. It's very generous of you for the Samurai Trophy Dogcat Fox. Oh, Dogcat Fox.
Wowie fucking wow.
There's a Satsu 2 cents Dogcat Fox. Thank you, Alan, very much. Appreciate it. And again, hope your knee heals up quickly. Okay, Scribe Light, the meeting example non sequitur. You described a meeting where all the people were equally privileged and him telling them how to deal with no privilege who weren't even there. Yeah, it was kind of out of the blue and didn't really go anywhere, did it? And like I said, I thought it was a joke. It was so weird. I thought it was going to be like a pre-punchline to something, but he didn't do anything with it. So it just, yeah, all right. You know what? And it was so out of place, and it was so, significant. I took notice of it, obviously. So, all right. You got me.
I had a dog, and his name was...
What?
I had a dog, and his name was...
Bingo! Of course!
Oh, won't somebody please?
Bingo. BINGO.
Okay!
Right?
And there we go, everyone. I mean, I'll give it another minute here if somebody's got some really great argument otherwise, but anecdote that probably never happened. We had trip to India, we had fight with sister, and I don't think there was anything else that was a direct anecdote. Everything else was a hypothetical or a scenario or let's imagine or something. So I don't know that there's an anecdote that never happened. Jacoby Irish. Wait, the time he bashed his sister's head through the wall, he acted like his parents were. No, he didn't act like his parents were okay with it. He said that they said, you don't know your own strength. This is why you have to be careful with your sister. I mean, the part where he said she was fine with just a bump on her head, but I mean, maybe I'm forgetting the strength of drywall, but especially the strength of drywall on a child's head. Do we believe that sister walked away with just a little bump on her head after being put, like a hole was put in the drywall? Like I say, admittedly, I don't work with drywall in the regular course of my day. So maybe somebody in the chat with a better idea of the strength of drywall versus a child's skull. Maybe that's our one inroad to anecdote that probably never happened. Is that he threw his sister with such force into drywall that her head went through it. Okay. Mess says not that strong. You ridiculous lunatic says it's easy. Okay. Because I don't know. I think of drywall and I think it, yeah. Advocata says if she didn't hit a stud. Well, okay. Drywall is not that strong unless it's okay. All right. So I'll let it pass then. I don't want to circle it just to circle it. All right. Well, I think that was it, everyone. Almost to a blackout. That was something else. Boy, oh boy, that guy hit all the marks, all the branches on the way down, huh? Even a WTF. Did we learn anything about privilege? Do we feel better about privilege now? Are you all going to use your privilege to help those weaker than you now? You know, I mean, just to be a nice person, I guess. He danced around some of the more obvious endpoints I thought we were going to get to. I kept waiting for some kind of reparations spiel. And he did, at least rhetorically, sort of dispel the idea that, but he didn't. He almost sounded like he was trying to dismiss the idea of things like white privilege, but then he walked into a meeting and just looked around and says, well, I see that everybody here has national privilege. I'm like, what is a national privilege? What exactly does that mean? Is that just another fancy term? Is that like a new buzzword, buzz phrase for not saying white privilege, just say national privilege? I don't know. Matt Barnes, it would depend. Drywall is anywhere from 3/8 of an inch to 5/8 of an inch. We can't know what the thickness / strength of it was. We didn't build the house. It's true. Okay. Admittedly, like I have not put up drywall before. It's been a long time since I've put a hole in drywall, if I ever did. So, all right. So sisters, maybe I was thinking of sheetrock. Maybe that's why I thought it would be a bit more of a problem. Maybe I was imagining sheetrock for some reason. But anyway, there you go, everybody. Now, as always, if you have an argument for a square not circled, and there is only one square not circled, and it's a really good argument, it has to be a really, really good argument, you can leave it in the comments after the show is posted, and I will consider it. And if you're able to convince me beyond the threshold of the last square on a blackout, I will make sure to post or pin your comment and also update the bingo card and post it to the Discord. And speaking of the Discord, did you know I have a Discord? I have a Discord. I'm going to put a link into the chat right now to the Discord. All you have to do is click on that. You'll find yourself on the landing channel called Say Hello. And in addition to saying hello, you just have to say the secret word. The secret word will tell me that you are not a bot. Actually watch the stream and have actually earned, I tell you, the entitlement, the right, the privilege of joining the Discord server. And today's secret word is shake. Just say hello, shake, and I'll know that you watched this stream in particular because boy, oh boy, did we hear that word quite a bit over the course of the stream. Also, programming note, Sunday at 6 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Pacific, no, sorry, Sunday at 8 a.m. Pacific, get my times mixed up, 11 a.m. Eastern will be the Sunday stream. The stream I do on Sundays, because Sunday is the day to stream on Sundays, where I'll talk about a thing. I'm not quite sure what it'll be yet. I usually decide that on Saturday, but we'll see what we see as the world turns. Any other notes? Oh, yes, at the top of the chat box, if I did not mention already, please take a look at the donation link for the Leukemia Lymphoma Society. If you did not know, my father recently was diagnosed with leukemia and thankfully is now in remission. And I'm very grateful for the medicines and technology that allowed him to reach that diagnosis. And so in thanks and honor for that and his continued good health, I'm going to promote the Leukemia Lymphoma Society more so than I have in the past. And please take a look at that if you can. Other than that, trying to think real quick if there's any other shout outs I want to give. Oh, yes. How about some of the people that I did dog cat foxes for this evening? How about Ranting Monkey? Do you know about Ranting Monkey? If you don't know about the Ranting Monkey, look up the Ranting Monkey on YouTube. He does a semi-regular stream each night, early morning, depending, called Monkey in the Morning, where he and Jack Cochran talk about the news of the day from a monkey perspective. Also, check out Satsu 2 Cents or Fam 2 Cents on YouTube. Also, Tuber, like Ordinary Tuber or something. I apologize. I forget what he's going by now, but it's Tuber. You can probably find a link on Fam 2 Cents. Check out Satsu. He does now live streams, and game videos. Oddly enough, about Supermarket Simulator. That's his jam right now, which is great. And then P Dog Night. If you don't know about P Dog Night, look up P Dog Night on YouTube and his show, The Morning Night Live, which happens, as far as I recall, Monday through Friday or Monday through Thursday. I might be off on that. Usually around 7 a.m. Pacific time, 10 a.m. Eastern time, where he talks about the news of the day like a good old radio disc jockey, or news jockey now, I suppose. Anyway, everyone, thank you so much for joining me for this TED Excellence of Privilege. Moderators, thank you for keeping an eye on things, even though everyone here is so well behaved. It is a privilege to oversee you, I would think they would say, as I project my thoughts out to all of the moderators. Everybody who donated, either to myself or to the link at the top of the chat box, thank you guys so much for your generosity. Very much appreciated. And otherwise, everyone, thank you for joining me. Hope you enjoy the rest of your Thursday. I hope the rest of your week is good. That seems a bit underscored, but sure. Your Friday is good. Your weekend is good. I hope you are all safe and well. If you are not well, please get well soon. And I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.